Oh, you said her.
This house is the cord long enough to put the camera on top of the screen.
I'm not calling them to find out.
So for each of you joining as guests today? Okay, great. I'm just, each of you joining as guests, I'm gonna just do, guest join for today. All right, so I will, if you don't mind, sit right here for a second, I'll have your names. Okay, great. Then your last name.
And I'm Jennifer with one N, Keenan, Keean. I have a ninth grader here, and I'm also the vice chair of the house.
Mr. Burke, what do you want to do? I get some more.
Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you. Here we go. Are there any changes to the agenda that anyone needs to make or would like to make? As I said, this is very much a procedural first meeting. No. May I have a Okay. We will now move to filling vacant seats, the open community member seat and the swing seat. Before we begin this process, I'd like to remind the go team of the following. The principal brings forth the nominations for the vacant and open community seats. All go team members have only one vote per seat. Individuals filling a vacant seat will serve until the conclusion of that seat's term. Individuals filling an open seat will serve for the full 2-year term. And upon approval, individuals are immediately full go-team members when they join the meeting. We will now begin. We'll now begin by filling our vacant seats. These are seats which have been vacated prior to the end of the term. I have the following nomination for our Joe team's vacant seat. And we have one, which is a parent seat. Mr. Deanne's son is no longer sitting here, so he's no longer the parent representative. I'd like to bring forward Joel Alvarado as my nominee. He's here, and I gave you all a little bit of background on him over the weekend, so kind of his candidacy and why I think he would be a great addition. He's been part of a go team before. But Joel, would you like to just talk a little bit about your background and why you'd like to serve?
Sure. Other than the fact that if I can put more odds on my son here, my son is named Nation. He's a sophomore here, thoroughly enjoying time here. Education is important to my family. My wife is a professor at Morris College. Got kind of studied there. I myself am pursuing my doctorate in higher education administration at the University of Alabama. Morehouse grad, Clark Atlanta, got my master's. I just realized the transformative power of education, and I was going to play a role, a big advocate for it. It's an opportunity to serve that capacity, especially like-minded individuals who want the best for their children and for other children. And who am I to not, enter my name is to have to see what I can offer, what I can contribute. Sure that our kids have the best comprehensive experience they can have as they move on to the next stage.
Do I have any questions? Joel, or anything I'd like to ask him or probe a little bit more?
I'm a lobbyist, so I'm used to being pro.
Right, okay. So, if there's no other, any discussion on that, I'd like to nominate Joel to fill the vacant position of parent position here on the go team. Is there any discussion about, about this or anything? Okay, we'll now proceed to vote on the nomination of Joel position of parent. All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. All opposed? All right, excellent.
Do we have a second on the motion? So I'll second. Do you have to do that? Second on that motion?
I don't think there's a second on a vote. We do a second for the agenda and all that, but, it was the term as well, second. Okay. All right, okay, so now, we'll move to fill the open community member seat. This person will serve on the GO team for a full 2-year term. I nominate Nadia, and pronounce your last name for us,
It's been his day. How do you listen?
to fill the open community seat. Would you talk a little bit about your background? How you got to Midtown as a parent, and then so kind of what you do, what your work is. How you think it might help.
Yeah, I'm a former middle school teacher and I'm now a middle school education professor at Georgia State University. And I train teachers, and I've actually worked with teachers who are not teaching here, teachers who are working at Howard. So I'm in the community and also a parent here. My kid Taylor's a senior, and I'm hearing through them what's happening in Midtown, and I would like to figure out a way to contribute to this community more. I spend a lot of time doing research and writing papers, and I'm at the university, and I'd like to be in school spaces where I can have do some good work.
I first came upon Nadia when I was principal at Cohen Middle School, and she was doing some work with Georgia State, working with some of our teachers in writing, and it was really powerful. So it was very coincidental, fortunate that we kind of came back together when she came with her son. This is 10th grade, right? Okay, it's 10th grade, right?
Taylor's actually a senior.
But he came as a 10th.
Oh,
grade,
came
wasn't
as,
he?
yes.
When he
yes,
first
as a
came?
junior. Yes,
Yeah.
as a-
So, yeah. Any questions? If I have any questions or want to probe a little bit more or want any more information from Nadia?
I do have a point of clarification. Am I now officially a voting member?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Only if you vote yes. Okay, so we'll now proceed to vote on our nomination for the community member seat. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye. All opposed, please say nay or raise your hand. Okay, great. All right, welcome. Okay, so now we'll fill our open swing seat. This is a seat that Trish Maxwell has. This person will serve on the GO team for a full 2-year term. Nominations for the swing seat member may be made by any GO team member or the principal can nominate. So I would like to bring forth Nydia Rivera, who has come on to Midtown as our bilingual community engagement specialist, which is really a big term for somebody whose job is to support, reach out, help our Hispanic families feel more part of our community. And the reason I brought her on as an employee, as a member of our team, was because I believe strongly that it's not our, it's more, our responsibility is to do more than just offer things. We can offer, oh, everybody has access to everything, but if you're not used to accessing that, or if you don't know how to access it, it's almost like you're not, it's not, you know. So what I have noticed over the years, in my years here and in my years at Inman, was a lack of participation with our Hispanic community in both athletics, arts, activity, after school activities, I wanted to change that, but also to get that community more involved and to really have a chance for the academic part, the college, the career, to make sure that we're looking after them as well, and to try to pull the parents in too. So, you know, we're starting a lot of work with the Brady peers in two very large Hispanic communities. And so I just thought it was time, and we were really fortunate to have her come on, another parent as well. But, so would you like to tell us a little bit more, maybe about your work or yourself, your background?
Yes, I recognize some faces here. I moved to Atlanta 2000, after 2001. I'm from Puerto Rico. You're also from Puerto Rico?
Well, West, I'm from New York.
Yeah, so I moved because I met my ex-husband, and we moved here. He got an offer to work at Georgia Tech as a professor, so that's why we moved to Atlanta. Actually, our first house was in 9th Street, just there. And at that time, I get familiarized with all the high schoolers. They knock at the door selling like magazines or helping them, and it was nice to see them in the community. So then I moved to Morningside, and I have 2 children, Mia and Christopher. Christopher is a senior here. And like around, this is going to be my 4th year working at Atlanta Public School. I used to work in Three Rivers Elementary, also like the dual immersion program that we teach I was in the kindergarten program, teaching the English speaking children to speak Spanish. And also we have a big community of Spanish speaking children over there. So I was like, especially during the pandemic, I received so many calls of parents, that they want to know about how to use the computer, how to access to the classes, and it was very challenging. But I think that was very good for the teachers and for the students and for the parents as well, because there were like no clues how to do Infinite Campus, how to do Zoom. So it was good to be like the link with the school and the parents in Spanish in that community. So that was very rewarding. And my background education, I studied communications in the University of Puerto Rico. I have a bachelor's and master in communication, specialized in journalism. And I work as a journalist over there in the newspaper in Nuevo Dia. So now I'm here, and I'm really happy to be here at Midtown High. Like, as a parent, it's good. I haven't seen my children at all.
They will.
But I like to work here, and I met a very very great teachers and staff. I also have also some friends that works here as well. So it's very, very good to be here and part of the community.
Well, now proceed with building please. And so we'll vote on the nomination of Lydia Rivera. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Okay. All opposed? Okay. All right. So our last appointment, and now Morgan, you have to go with that. Good job. You're just, this year we have 2 student members. That is a new thing for the APS rotating process. 2 student members, and I'm bringing forth one, Morgan Knight, to be one of them, and then we can discuss. You all can bring forth nominations for the other. Yeah. So students will serve a 1-year term, and this is different, will be a full voting member of the GO team, so that's new this year. After careful consideration, I appoint Gordon Knight as one of our student members of the GO team for the school year. And one reason why I nominate him is every year I ask counselors, do you have somebody you think would be really, really active and really enjoy being on the GO team? And they always give me one. And so one of the counselors recommended Morgan, and I immediately remembered, oh, yes, that family came like February, maybe, okay? Yeah, all of a sudden, during the pandemic, during virtual learning, y'all moved from Chicago, right? Is it Chicago? I know I'm stealing your thunder and all that, but I just thought, wow, how challenging to move to another part of the country and to start school, but you all done really well. You've done really well. And so I thought, yes, that's somebody that we want. So, Morgan, would you like to tell us anything else about why you might want to be on the GO team or anything about the town or?
Well, I just want to say that I'll be a senior, or I am a senior this year. Since I've been here, all the step and other students have made it a lot easier and a pretty easy time making a lot of new friends. So that's good. I think it would be good to help make decisions and see what I can add to what's here in school.
It's good to have new eyes, fresh eyes, you know. So really glad, very, very glad to have you here. Okay, so I'm appointing him. Congratulations. You will serve as one of our student reps for the year. Okay. Approval of our previous minutes. We will review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. Mr. Rodenbaugh will give us a little synopsis of what that was the main meeting.
Yeah, are we able to, should I pull it up here? I will say that the notes were a little more robust for that meeting than some other ones, if we remember correctly. I can just give it verbally, or we can.
You can just, and then they'll post it. We can post it.
So for visitors and for any aspiring secretaries on the committee, I'm hoping to pass the torch of this role beyond today, that you capture minutes, taking notes of action items as like a non-negotiable that has to be in the minutes, and then capturing like essential parts or important parts of conversation that we think would be relevant to community members, staff, etc. They are publicly available on the school's website. So if you do want to see these in their full detail, you can go to Midtown's website, and then under the Go team, there's a right now, if you click that, everything's blank because it's ready for the new year and ready to be updated. If you click Go Team Archive, you can find the previous year, which you'll find all of our notes, which we do, our minutes, excuse me, which we do approve in meetings. So would you like to approve the minutes today? Okay, so the minutes, if you want to pull it up, you may. We discussed in our May 17th meeting, action items were we were hoping to have a school-based solution around a lot of the intervention programs that we were discussing. So from the district, there was a lot of like this next coming year, there's going to be interventions. There are going to be ways that we assess students who need interventions. And then there was also the change to the bell schedule, which I'm sure we're all aware of here in this room. And so we had a discussion at that meeting where we, as a Go team, signed on the support for supporting Dr. Bachman and hopefully having a school-based solution, which would allow us to take time to assess our students within the school year rather than have assessments done at the beginning of the year. They would then alter our schedule and make significant changes. I think if you want to follow up on this, certainly do. My understanding is that as more information came out, that what we were worried about or concerned about in that meeting came out not to be true. We were worried that we were going to have a new assessment mechanism that was going to sort students who needed intervention right before the school year, which would then disrupt everybody's student schedule based on teachers who needed to teach that intervention and students who needed to be sent into that. My understanding is that we used milestone data from years before.
And Ms. Davis, our new assistant principal, is in charge of the intervention program, so she's going to talk in a minute about what's
works for us. So the notes really were just a discussion about that and our hope that the teachers and the Go team as a whole expressed the desire for our school to be able to make a response that was not disruptive to the schedule that had already been established, and that would allow teachers to have a time to get to know and understand students before like leveling up different types of engagement. And then, let's see, the bell schedule, that has been resolved. We don't need to get into that. We shared concerns about it. And there was also another discussion item just about how like Midtown High School and talking about branding and things we were going to be doing to kick off the year. And we Gordon had mentioned that he'd bring up at PTSO meetings, like what we were going to do to kind of as a kickoff with a new name, how are we going to build a culture around the new name. And that's it.
Any questions or things to add to the minutes, corrections? Anything else?
Yeah.
I actually have to head out. Thank you, Fred.
Sure, okay.
Good to meet you. You're welcome.
No corrections. I have a motion to approve the previous minutes. A second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. Opposed, please say nay. Okay, so the next order of business is the election of voting officers. And so I wanted to talk about that, and I can be certainly dissuaded from this, but you all that were on this last year, remember, same thing in August, we had our initial meeting, and then we moved to the September meeting to elect officers. And we did that at the beginning of the September meeting. Because students can be, anybody on the Go team can be an officer. We'd rather move it towards September when we have Morgan back and we have a new student, whoever that would be, on there too. You know, I hate to just move forward. I really want to include them. I don't want them to just feel like that they're, you know, an appendage just to the. So, and also we have so many new people, and I'd like everybody to just have a chance to kind of sit with it in a minute. So, the officers are, of course, the chair, the secretary, and the vice chair, and then the cluster representative as well. Cluster advisory team is an important thing, called CAT. And so we would elect a cluster representative as well at that time.
So, what does that person do on the cluster representative?
So that person, we have cluster meetings of all the schools in the Midtown cluster, about 4 times a year, maybe more, depending on what's hot at the time. And so somebody from this team and myself go to those meetings, attend those meetings, give input, part of the decision-making process, and then report back to it. It's an important role. They're all important, but that's an important role. You know, it's always something going on in the Midtown cluster, and the CAT is important, so.
Such a great name.
Do you need a motion in order to move it to?
Yes, I would like to, if you all, we could have a motion to move the election to the
So moved.
beginning of the meeting.
To move the election of officers to our September meeting.
Second? Okay. Okay, all in favor of just moving it to the next meeting? Okay, thank you. So that'll give a chance, y'all a chance to campaign amongst yourselves. Decide what you want to do. We could have come with Morgan and just tell them we're like.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so, so let's move on. So we'll do that at first meeting. So let's move on to the review and approve public comment format. We will now move to our next item of business in reviewing and updating or confirming our Go Teams public comment format. Public comment opportunities are available for Go Teams to hear from interested members of the community from section 3.4 of the Go Team handbook. Opportunities for public comments shall be provided at least 4 times in the school and noted on the meeting agenda. OT meetings will not provide response, OT members will not provide responses or engage in direct conversation during the meetings. Each OT may determine a consistent method for receiving public comments and for parents and other citizens to sign up to address the team. At least 20 minutes of time to the public to make comments at meetings with public comments permitted, and the public will receive at least 2 days business notice of the protocol for subject to speak. Here's an example of a public comment format from the GoTo handbook. Quote, for those of you wishing to provide comment, there's time allotted on the agenda from 6 to 6:20. The sign up sheet is by the door. Each member of the public will have 2 minutes to speak, at which time we will ask you to have a seat to allow others to speak. The public comment period is designed to gain input from the public and not for immediate responses by the GoTo to the public comment reception. Minutes, we will close public comment and move on to the next agenda item. If there are questions or information that you have for the GoTo, you may also contact one or more of the GoTo members after this meeting. You can find GoTo member contact information, meeting dates, and agendas on the GoTo page of the website. End quote. So, what we have done in the past has been very liberal with that. We have basically said that any meeting can be a public comment meeting. So that's just kind of what we said. We'll make sure that we say that in the agenda in the next 9 minutes. That's what we want on board. Every meeting is a meeting. As I said, this is like the biggest problem we've had. So that's good. That's good. That's good. So, okay. May I have a motion to adopt this public format, which is that every meeting will have a public comment for 20 minutes at the end of the meeting.
I'll phrase that as every meeting would have the opportunity for public comment. Would have the opportunity for public comment up to 20 minutes total. Okay, at the end of the meeting.
Is there a second? Yeah.
I would second that.
All in favor, just say aye, raise your hand.
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, great. So we're going to set the GoTo meeting calendar. Adhering to the agenda, we will now discuss our meeting calendar for the school year. As a reminder to our GoTo is required to have at least 6 meetings this school year. 4 meetings must permit time for public comment. The meetings cannot be held during the instructional school day, and meeting location must be places which can accommodate the public. Okay. We'll do better next time. Okay. We're not calling this a conference, right? There is some other word we're just into this. Room, I can't remember what it is. Okay. I have made some suggestions for the calendar. It's on your agenda. And I did put 4 o'clock, and one of the reasons I put 4 o'clock is I think that's a little more convenient for the students. And it allows the teachers, about 10 minutes to get here. So that's just my suggestion today. That I said 4:15 this time, is 50. So those are the dates. The reason I have those dates, kind of, you've been on a GoTo before, you know that things speed up a little bit more after the first year. What we do, the first couple of meetings is, like next meeting, we will do the officers reports, but then we'll start looking at our strategic plan, which you have a copy of, because we need to revise, update, refresh if there's anything about our school strategic plan. And so that'll be September 13th and really the October 18th meeting. And then we have November 15th. Don't meet in December. January, February, and March are very busy with budget meetings. That's kind of the purpose of those meetings. The winter meetings is the development and approval of the school budget. And then April 18th. And then we would have one in May if we needed to, which we usually end up doing. But so those are my suggestions for the meetings. Those are all Mondays, by the way. It's just what we've done now for years and years. So, okay. Okay. Okay, is there any comment about that? So they want to change that. I'm not necessarily get into that. All right, so we'll just call it our calendar. May I have a motion to approve the calendar?
I'll motion to approve the calendar.
Second?
I'll say.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? Okay, all right. Good. Last thing I think we have to do now, yes, before we get to some discussion items, is the review, confirm, update, and adopt voting norms. Now we will determine our voting meeting norms. We will begin reviewing the initial voting meeting norms. This is a meeting of the go team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here quietly observed. We will be fully present. We will follow the agenda as noticed to the public as soundcast. We will be respectful of each other at all times. We will be open-minded. We invite and welcome contributions of every member and listen to each other. We will respect all ideas and assume good intentions. We will approach differences of opinion with curiosity. Does anyone have any changes to these norms? We can leave them unchanged. Okay. Have a motion to adopt these norms for our vote team. A second. All in favor of adopting these norms? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. Excellent. So we've now finished with that part. And we will move on to items on our agenda. And I don't really have any discussion items yet, but I do have, we want to move just some things on the principal's report, which is just some updates on things. So as far as, in this day, it's an update too. So as far as COVID protocols, that's on every agenda for everybody's first one. We are, as a school, doing the protocols of distancing as much as possible, with 3 feet in the classroom, 6 feet when eating with masks on all the time. Lots of reminders about masks. Lots of, you notice we have a new hand washing sink in the kitchen cafeteria. If anybody's noticed that, very big hand washing sink, automatic. You walk up, it turns on. So paper towels is one of my very favorite of the renovation. My first teaching job in Cobb County at Compton Elementary, I was always amazed by this huge, before the kids came to lunch, they could stop there, this huge like trough with the hand washing, the soap, and right by the cafeteria, and I thought that was a great idea. So it has taken me 25 years, but we did it, and so I enjoy it every day. So please feel free to partake with the watching the same. But so you know, those are our major protocols that we're doing. Teachers, what else are y'all doing?
So I had a question. A student asked me, or a few students asked me today about lunch tomorrow. I think it's supposed to rain tomorrow. They're like, what are we gonna do for lunch?
So our rain plan is use the practice gym, so the
Okay.
older gym, the bleachers,
Okay,
and then the theater lobby.
okay.
So that's our rain plan.
I'm thinking about how we can help you in your administration. So if there are talking points regarding what the protocols are and what we're doing proactively, we can get copies of that too. So that way, if anybody's asking, we can all be aligned with what we're saying.
Okay. You know, what we're finding is, I don't know if this is a protocol, but I sound like everybody, you know, everybody else, but the most important thing is the vaccination. Because how it plays out here is, so we've had about 17 cases of COVID positive from teacher pre-planning to now. I have no idea if that's high, low, I don't know that. So, and some of those definitely are people that have been vaccinated from self-report vaccinated. But where it's harming the other kids is, teachers know because of all the emails that have been going out from me, is the kids. So when a student is has COVID positive, we try to do contact tracing. for the kids that are within 6 feet and with them in the classroom. And so then I send a self-report to the parents of those kids. They send it back to me. And if you are vaccinated, if your child is vaccinated and not showing any symptoms, nothing happens. You keep coming to school. But if you are not vaccinated, that is the problem. And so those students that are not vaccinated then are quarantined for 10 days, not 10 school days, which is 10 days. And the harm in that is that those students are, the vast majority are kids of color. So you have a group that has been struggling ever since COVID. And now they're struggling because they're home, and teachers are opening Zoom links, providing assignments and all that. But it's not the same, of course. And so it is really, it's 90% of the kids that are at home quarantined are kids of color. You know, the vaccination thing is so important because it keeps you in the school. That's the best I can say. It keeps you on the sports team. It keeps you in the band. You know, because if you get the quarantine, you don't, play the sports team. But I mean, it's just, if we could tell kids, if kids really knew that that's where it's going to hit you, is you might not be able to play football, you might cross country, you're not going to be able to perform in the band. If they really knew and that you're going to be home for 10 days and you're going to be watching on the screen. And what you're going to be doing is really listening. Because
And that's the one issue that as soon as that conversation came about, as soon as we flip on Zoom, there's no way to get around it. That's simultaneous teaching. It's like hard to, I know that's not what we're supposed to do, but as soon as we have someone sitting on there, I then have to open up a whole new can of technology that really is not, because before it was more so in-person virtual school as opposed to in-person, virtual, kids at home. And now it's like I had to deal with a student last week. That student literally did not receive nearly the quality of instruction that she would have gotten in the room because what I'm doing is not catered towards that. We were doing it in the spring and the last fall, that's what we were doing. Now we switched back to in-person instruction. Those kids at home are not getting nearly the quality of instruction as if they were sitting in the room. So it's not, I think a lot of people may think, oh, well, it's going to be just like last year with the teacher who gave us our assignments and taught us through Zoom. We really don't teach you through Zoom because we're a walking around, especially as a band teacher. Like, I'm not even on the screen. Like, our room is like the size of this library almost. So I'm not even, it's really unfortunate for the kids who are at home. And I don't know how to push the vaccination thing anymore. I think that the quarantine list, I don't know what we can do to the district. I think the quarantine restrictions are a little restrictive. And then also at my wife's school, she teaches kindergarten and she had a student test positive. And I was like, so who's quarantined? She's like, no one. So I was like, how does that work? Because nobody's vaccinated in kindergarten. So I don't know where the discrepancies are throughout the district. I don't know if, your kids have to follow everything to the T. So I can't speak for other people, but it's got to become an equity issue. That's what Dr. Proctor is pointing out.
Two questions. One, has there been much success with the on-site vaccination?
we have one, so we had our first dose Friday, we had 11 people, 11 kids.
11.
And then the next dose will be the September 3rd.
And so, but there was also
Testing.
the test, the surveillance too. How quick was that? Are those?
Oh, we knew that right away.
Oh,
We had
really?
zero positives.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
Is there one option about helping to get this word out? Possibly is whatever student leadership, maybe posters around school, or if there's any of that they can try to remind the kids that, hey, if you want to stay on the team, you want to stay on the band. I mean, I think that's a huge thing. The kids aren't going to make the connection about being home on Zoom. They're going to think it's cool, but if they don't get to be in the clubs, they don't get to hang out with their friends. That's where you hit where it hurts.
so Mr. Roberts is working on a GMO episode about that.
Okay.
A lot about COVID, and that's what it's going to be about. But, yeah. And I know with teachers, it's also, it's so hard for y'all to, you're torn. I mean, because you're gonna teach to the, I mean, you want to include that person. So that's another.
Yeah.
And like you said, it is true. In the district was very clear, we're not doing simultaneous teaching, we're not doing simultaneous teaching, and I'm like, it is, I mean, we're moving
Yeah.
toward that. And I don't, right, I don't think that this, I've tried. Today I had a conversation with the health services Dr. Hilder, and I really tried to get her to understand the massive job that is to contact trace, especially in high school. You've got 8 classes. It's not just like 3rd grade where you know, and there's nobody, no extra people were given, so it is, you know, you're talking about, okay, so we have 17 cases, a few of those are teachers, but 14 cases of kids, 14 times 8, trying to find the kids around, you know, and then teachers trying to get the seating charts and,
What is it?
Was
Is
that kid
so-
absent that day? Was he not?
If they're-
Next door?
Is it 6 feet that they have to be, or is it 3 feet with mats? Because in my room, I literally have to add tape under the chairs and it's measured 36 inches between each seat.
Yeah.
So is it like, what is close proximity to warranty?
within 6 feet for 15 minutes.
You and that.
So, which is, yeah, I mean,
One of the, Dr. Markman, there have been a few times here where we've had like a massive announcement that had to get out. There was like a registration once where I showed up and every single mailbox, just like the other day with the water bottles and the things, like every single mailbox had papers that you were gonna give out to your 2nd period class. And it had some, you know, core important information on it. When we're offering we're continuing to offer the vaccine, would it be possible to have something go out with like a school approved slide of some sort or something that we put up, or we just hold this up? It just says, here is exactly what happens. This is like, we really need you as a community. All the slogans that are market tested to like convince people to do it, right? Like, do it for us, do it for your club, do it for your team, do it for whatever, like some sort of advertisement, really. And then, and saying, this is exactly all the stuff you're gonna lose if you're not vaccinated. And then advertise the next time we're getting vaccines. And like, I've been feeling a little bit like, I feel like we put things out as we're offering this, but could we turn it up a notch to like, we can't mandate, but can we turn it up a notch to every single teacher for sure, guaranteed talking about it, and maybe include it in, asking teachers to include it in some sort of like, send out an email to their classes. I mean, some sort of way like, last week when we had to shut down, think of teams of people we had to reach every household. To make the kids that disappeared, we couldn't find, we weren't turning in assignments. It's like, is there something a district could do or we could do to get to every family? Like say, this is what is at stake. If you're not vaccinated, this is all. And plus, it means all of our admin team is spending half their day on this, and it's reducing the quality of the school experience for
it's
everyone.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's just
And I
ridiculous.
know information's going out, but I still, like, I just know a lot of my students were unaware that they could even receive the vaccine. And I know this was just the first time, so the more and more we do it, the more students will know that they're like, I know that, like, you know, and I mean, I know there's a difference in putting things out and then students hearing
Yes.
things. I'm aware that there's that, but, yeah, I think if we turn it up.
Like teachers had a responsibility, coaches had a responsibility, club leaders all had a responsibility. We all had like something we handed and said, this is what it means to this club, this is what it means to this class. I think there's a wide feeling from the teachers and staff of wanting to support the admin team. We know that it's a huge burden and we want to help. But I think a lot of people are hesitant because we know we can't mandate. We're nervous about taking on controversial issues sometimes. And so if we could get some like green lights of like, this is how you can help, I think that there would be a lot of positive response.
The other thing too, I wonder, so now it's during conversation, open space, what are the rights of students if the student wants to get vaccinated, the parents have issue and have we communicate that to students that they do have a right to do so regardless of the parents' wishes? And some students may feel uncomfortable going against their parents' wishes, even though, so I guess part of me too is understand the push to try to get people vaccinated. but I wonder about that student that's in a conundrum. Like, they don't want to miss out on all this stuff, but at the same time, there's repercussions if they move forward with vaccination and the parents that want to do that. And they say the school made me feel like I needed to do that if I wanted to enjoy all the full benefits of the school. So I'm not saying that that's a situation that needs to be resolved right now, but it is a phenomenon that will emerge out of it, and then we have to confront it ahead of time so that we're not reacting to it and maybe not doing the best job possible to deal with it.
I think a lot of parents are surprised when I call them and email them and say, well, your child's gonna be home because they're not vaccinated. I think they weren't expecting, I mean, you know, you thought everything was back to normal and you weren't expecting. I do think parents are now connecting the vaccination, why it's really important. So, yeah, I like your ideas about all of that.
It's kind of a question that's opening up a full can of words, just kind of seeing some headlines and things. I don't know if DPS even started this, or even started talking about this. It might have behind closed doors, but has there been any talk about adding the COVID vaccine to the list of vaccinations that students have to add to come to school? I mean, I freaking kid, I was a science life away just for him to go to school. So it's like, it's a ton of vaccines. So I'm just like, is that a thing where they're really considering, or is that like that's a high button?
I think unfortunately, it's, that's a state of Georgia decision, to be on BRITS, which is the registry for all of, and it is because it's not a compliance vaccination.
Right.
Found out today.
And at
So I
this
asked
point,
about
it's
it. I
not
said,
even officially FDA.
Right.
That's why I
So,
got rushing it for
you know,
sure.
I asked for a list today, can I get a list of everybody that's been vaccinated so I can just cut my work in half? And they're like, no, it's not a compliance vaccination, so it's HIPAA, it falls under HIPAA. You can't, so.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
And just so if you want to feel better about it, I just read today that there's a Republican senator that intends to introduce legislation for the next session to prohibit vaccination mandates. So that's
All vaccination mandates, maybe, or just this one.
dealing with COVID specifically.
Maybe nationally or?
No, just the state senator here in Georgia, who ironically enough was a super spreader in the state legislature, introducing just to add more to the conversation. But I just want to the conversation you're bringing forth, the conversation that's being had. And so I'm going to think to Dr. Parker's point that unfortunately the decision makers of that may not be as open to the concerns of local government regarding the administration of education.
But, we're all about access, and we are, it's a big push for me, is, right, it's unfair to kids because of maybe a parent decision or, parent not understanding that they're gonna miss school, and that's really hard, so it's something we'll continue to push. Okay, but it was good news that we didn't have any positive tests. We tested almost 200 people. But I can tell you again, it's the kids that we tested, their parents are more aware. It's getting to the right people, it's hard here. Okay, so let's talk about now, interventions in, on the agenda, it says interventions in enrichment block. That's the way this was carried as well, but. So Ms. Davis has come on. Melissa Davis is our newest assistant principal. And she's lots of qualifications. Middle school teacher where she started out, but she was also the K-2 science coordinator for the district up until June when she joined us, which is a great plus. But she has been working really hard on this intervention. So bring us up to date on what we're doing, testing, interventions, math, all that stuff.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. I am Ms. Davis. So nice to meet everyone. We are doing math assessment. So math is a universal screener, and the purpose of it is for teachers to understand students' instructional levels. And so it is an adaptive test. It does change based on the students' responses. So if they get the answers correct, it goes. The next test question will be more complex. And then if they happen to get it incorrect, maybe 3 in a row, then it drops down the complexity of that next question. It is an untimed test. We will administer math assessment 3 times a year. So the testing window will be August 23rd to September 13th. That's the fall testing window. Then our winter testing window will be November 29th through December 17th. And the spring testing window will be March 7th through 28th. So once again, it is designed to, and every student will take the math assessment. Like I said, it provides key information for teachers to use as they consider the instructional strategies for that student. It helps identify strengths. So basically what the students are aware of when it comes to the content. It will be based in mathematics and reading. And then also the areas of growth that the student may need more assistance in with.
You said March 7th through March 28th?
Yes, that's the spring assessment. There.
Will everybody test at the same, if I may?
Yes, I'm good.
I'm just wondering, everybody testing at the same time? So-
Yes, everyone will test at the same time. We did build it into our schedule. So we will have adjusted schedule when it's time for that assessment. And we'll go over that with the teachers tomorrow or back.
And it's a 1 day, like 1 day, 3 times.
It may be 2, because you have math and reading. So you all will assess both content areas. Other information about that in general. So administered 3 times yearly. So it allows for everyone to see, it measures growth over time. And so because we give it 3 times, you can see the growth of the student. Like I said before, it adapts to each student and informs instruction, and it helps promote like continuous improvement of the student. Because the student needs to see where this is where I am, and then set goals for himself or herself, and then therefore through instruction later on when they test again to see then I reach my goal. And so that kind of helps with that personalized learning as well. All right, when you're thinking about math growth, so it does provide accurate data because it's real time. With the student, how the student answer those questions right in that set time. The great thing about the math assessment is they do not finish, they can go back to finish the next day. And so that's why when I say 2 days, but if we go past that, then we will make allowances to pull those students to test them.
So those windows of time, it's just 2 days within those windows. So like August 23rd, September 13th, will be 2 days in that window.
Exactly, so we want to start the sooner. Just in case, yes. There's something called a RIT score, and I actually have it written down to say what RIT stands for. So when we're looking at the RIT score, it is a norm grade score. So they're looking at the subject, the season, and the grade level. And so they actually use that for norming the test. So this test is valid, it is reliable. It is graded by NWEA, is the parent company of it. And so when the student takes it, it's reading in the spring and then 6th grade. And so when they look at the norming data, they will compare them to other students who took the same assessment in the spring, in the same season, grade level, and then subject for comparison.
Do they compare at how many different levels, locally, state, nationally?
So when they're looking at it, they do correspond with, it is national, so it is
All
national.
national.
Yeah, it is.
Excuse me. Who has access to this data? Who will be
I
able
was
to
gonna
see?
say, yes, that question. So the great thing is assessment provides reports. And so they can have a report that goes to parents, the students actually have a report, the teacher of course gets it because they know
with the instructional level or create an instructional plan for students. So every parent, teacher, as well as.
But no entity outside of the school, right?
I mean, of course, the district. So
I mean, other than that,
yeah.
like,
No,
for
you mean
instance,
outside
yeah, like-
of Atlanta Public
like
School?
a college or university. doesn't
No,
actually-
no.
Right.
That takes a whole lot of red tape, because
Yeah.
any data in Atlanta doesn't share data.
Okay.
Data very easily. I'm willing to.
Question.
Mhm.
Yeah, I haven't heard of the map, but I just looked it up and I realized that, you know, there has been some controversy in other cities that have adopted it, just because teachers have found that it isn't connected to their instruction. It takes 6 instructional days, and you have, you know, the other state standardized tests, so I'm not against it necessarily. I just wonder if, like, teachers might already know the information, and then the math test may not provide, you know, information that actually is relevant to what they're.
Got it. And so, and what they said, and this is from me going, to the training and listening, to them, that some teachers may not know, like exactly their area of work, say if it's reading, for instance. And they may know that, yes, they have great reading comprehension skills, but if we're looking at the inference standard, they may be weak in this area of inferencing. And I may not necessarily get that unless I'm on that specific standard at that time. So this one kind of, it creates or gives a overview of the student at that time. And really what it assesses is what the students are already aware of. So when it's not necessarily testing for mastery, it's testing for what the students have, their awareness of certain skills and certain concepts. And so for certain teachers, that may not be beneficial, but then for others, they may see the value in having that type of information. So I just, with all assessments, or, you know, there will be people who are supportive of it, and some say, well, it doesn't quite give you what I need.
This is the first year, so
And then
it's kind
there's
of a pilot to
it's-
see how it goes out.
I mean, they're definitely, yeah, they pay for it, they're using it.
I think we're in for 3 years, it's my understanding.
Yeah,
The district.
the district. And one thing that they did say, like the purpose for APS, of course, they want universal screener. But then because we have the intervention, which I'm going to mention in a moment, they're using that as to measure the efficacy of that intervention program. So it's twofold, like, yes, we're going to get it for all students, but then for those students who are in the intervention program, they're going to use this data to see if the intervention program is.
The city schools of Decatur is using this map for a long time. So I don't know if they're still on it, but I know that was kind of like the bedrock of how they did what they did, and why everybody was so jealous of how Decatur did what they did. And I heard wonderful things about it, speaking with people in Decatur.
Yeah.
It's
Teachers
instruction,
for it.
yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing, so the teachers are like, yeah, we did give us that, but at least it gives us that granular data that if I got 25 kids, I can't tell every standard, but this will pull out some highlights that we wasn't expecting.
I gave this out of my previous school,
Okay.
and I will say that it is very, very important the way that it's framed to students. Very important. And then the results are very important to frame to students as well. There was definitely an experience, depending on the way the teacher approached it, where if students were used as like you described it, in the way of like coaching and saying, this is exciting to be able to see where you are, and like now you get a chance to see how much you can grow between now and then, and then referencing it maybe even a few times between the two, of taking it the next time. You know, there are other times where, you know, I saw classrooms where teachers they got the reports and it was written in a kind of way of like, kids didn't know what it meant to be in a certain percentile. They didn't know what it meant to have this issue or that, and they were just, and then it can be problematic in that way. And so to me, it's just like, it's all about framing on the front and back end. And yeah, and it's so, there is a lot of, of all the standardized tests I've given, I did really like it. I think it was harder with upper level grades and upper level learners, because the nuances get harder to tease out because it gets so hard. The test gets so hard that like you run into effort issues It's just like, oh my God, they'll get a text like this long, they're going to answer a bunch of things right in a row. But I did find for students who were behind, that it was helpful for me if I had the tools to say like, isolate out the skills and coach students after the game. Okay, that was my experience. I did it for like 5 years.
Because, you know, I always feel a kind of way about measuring student performance. And so is there safeguards to prevent student A from preparing for this test as opposed to student B who just take it cold? So that way, student A doesn't seem like they are advancing, but it doesn't, but it does, you know, I just want to make sure there's equity, like, you know, both students A and B are taking it cold, so you have a true measurement of their skill sets at that moment, and there's no preparation for somebody as opposed to somebody else.
And it is a cold assessment, like I said, you take it before, and it's adaptive. And it gets harder and harder and more complex. Even the highest performance student will get to a certain frustration level because it will continue to become more and more complex.
So that's like that's the safeguard.
Yes,
Okay.
the fact that it's adaptive. So it's going to adapt. And another thing that it doesn't do, it doesn't compare student to student. And so when you mentioned about like norming, like how we share out the data, is not where it is comparison, comparing one student to another. The students themselves will be normed based on the number of students who sat for that test at that time, you know, that same exact test at that time around the country. And so with that being said, when we look at their score, you can't compare our two scores because it's different based on the adaptability of that test. And so I think a lot of times maybe that was a frustration too with students trying to compare, like look at their scores and maybe compare to another.
It's just students are so accustomed to like a grading system
Yeah.
that, you know, a lot of the lower students who need the support the most, like don't understand how to compare two bar charts with each other of like,
Yeah.
this is what a national population is.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of teachers, it was very helpful to say, it's getting harder, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like celebrate that it's getting harder on your
Yeah.
computer, you're doing well, you know, versus kids feeling defeated by it getting harder. It's again, just very much.
Yeah.
And we'll put something in there, so it's something about the parents. But what are we saying to kids? So it's next week. We're starting next week, right?
Yes, we're gonna start next week. Yes.
So how are we, I guess, prepping them mentally for, this is important, you know, to get a gauge of, we really don't have anything for a year and a half. Because we have gotten some milestones results. We got them today, broken down by school, but so few kids took the milestone that it just has no relevance. It's just not.
So there is teacher preparation materials, like a little short video that you can show to the students that kind of explain, you know, exactly the purpose behind it, what it is, and basically, more importantly, what it's not. And so, so there is something to kind of, there's a practice test that students will go through before they actually take the test. So to kind of get them familiar and so that's why we're doing the training a week out. So along this week, going into next week, then students will be familiar with the assessment.
Maybe Thursday or Friday, we could start our advisory period. We could not do that for one of the days and really talk about, you know, what's, so, I don't know, just, because we want to prep them that this is coming, it's important, you know.
And Mr. Brown and myself and Ms. Hollis, we have to discuss that tomorrow.
They'll say I'm trained us tomorrow. Okay, so that is.
And then one of the intervention program, the intervention assessment, but we do have intervention. And the purpose of the intervention program is to address specific gaps in learning, for lack of a better word, in literacy, mathematics, any unfinished learning due to the pandemic. So we do have H&H System 44. So that is a foundational skills for reading. So we do have students who may score based on the phonics inventory. If there's those lower learners, there is a program for them. Then also there is a Read 180, and that is a reading comprehension program, and it is used to, of course, strengthen reading comprehension skills is a very scripted program for teachers. And so we have a Read 180 course as well as Math 180. That is a support class for Algebra 1. And in that course, they learn prerequisite skills needed for Algebra 1 to be successful in Algebra 1. So it's paired with Algebra 1. So they're in Algebra 1 and Algebra 1 support class at the same time. And then also we have Apex Learning, which is for geometry support. So once again, if they're in geometry, they will have that, if they qualify. So let me preface that. So the students who were part of the academic recovery ARA, which is a summer program, coming in to high school or from 8th grade, if they attended that in middle school, that's how they were selected. If it is higher grades, maybe 10th, 11th grade, based on previous data, I think so mentioned milestone, star assessment, even their pass fail rate was taken into consideration as well, of course, to be selected to be placed intervention support.
Wondering also about the Spanish speaking students.
Yes.
We have some in ESOL programs, they have some intervention for them or some.
Well, and they have to qualify. What I mean by that, they have to have at least 2 of them on their schedule. And then we're able to put them in one, because these intervention courses are elective courses. Of course, a content credit supersedes this intervention course. And so a lot of the upper grades may not take the algebra 2, which we're offering, because they need 4 credits for graduation versus an elective credit in that. And so we do have the Apex geometry, Apex learning geometry in algebra 1 support. But along those lines, that's a case-by-case basis, because like I said, they have to have at least 2 ESOL segments throughout the day in order for us to take one to make it an elective course.
Sorry, can you list the name of the programs?
Okay, we have HMH System 44, HMH,
Okay.
System 44, and that's foundational, but that will only be based on how well they perform on the Read 180, which is the next one. So Read 180 is the main intervention system, and we may have System 44 based on the results from there.
Okay.
All right, then we have HMA Math 180, and that's the Algebra 1 support. And then there is Apex Learning, which is geometry support. Oh, okay.
Okay, that concludes our informational items, announcements, things like that. We didn't plan on public comment, but we should. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I saw the universal screener, is that weekly?
That's math, that's the math.
Oh, that's not, see, I'm just.
Yeah, I don't know why I was double.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there, but, yeah. So, we close the meeting, is there any public comment?
I have a question. Going back to the COVID vaccination. And the fact that it's predominantly towns of color that are not vaccinated. This is the first time we're in public school. First time public school, so I don't know how this works. But in the smaller schools, private schools that we've been to, we have Dr. Color will come in and talk to them about the trust. That community. Want to know the community. So I don't know if that's something that can be done. I told my I think to going back to team, maybe now that we're starting to trials and having the coaches say at the onset, hey, this is what's going to happen. Well, and also we don't want to shut down because of the need back on campus. If not enough of you and your peers do this, then you're gonna miss out again. So I think this also, from what you're saying, I think, you know, the people that are really tested and do the right thing, paying parents all the time. And you might have a demographic that's not meeting, you know, not on the website, that's not meeting. Get to them. And a lot of, I'm surprised every day of my life that there are adults who don't know the basics about the vaccines. You know, whatever they got, Instagram, whatever they got, that's such misinformation. And just like I said, get them to know. Beyond that, as was pointed out, as a child, you might want to, but your parents don't want to. You know,
Lisa, right?
Yes.
Lisa Vitella?
Yes.
I think I would have such like, but definitely, I think taking it to the coaches and they're taking it much more.
I will definitely mention it in my peer meeting tonight. I didn't even think about it until we were talking about this and until, you know, we mentioned the impact, you know. And I actually did, I got like a mini panic attack last night. I thought I said, if the band has to quarantine or shut down, then I have to give you a refund. When it comes to any months of fast, because they have to say, okay, well, what was paid for, what part of the percentage has to go back to them. So thank you for kind of bringing that, because it's got my wheels turning about these things. I might even go ahead, I might, because we talked about I talked to Sarah about this, we had 2 buses, but we only have about 30 kids, so I asked her what was the COVID protocols and all of that. She said, no, 1 bus will be fine for you guys, and now I'm thinking like, let's go ahead and split that up 15 to 15.
Your precarious, your situation's a little precarious.
Maybe Coach Johnson could
Oh, yeah.
do something with all the coaches. I mean, he has all their like immediate contact and probably quick attention, that some sort of, you know, thing that could be blasted out to every coach.
Yeah, I do think we need to be more aggressive on it. I think sometimes we're not, I mean, sometimes we're not, you know, like I was,
You assume everybody's doing it, right? You assume everybody's doing it in their class sometimes.
exactly, I'm like,
Yeah.
aren't they the same? Are they in my brain? Got they-
Yeah.
My brother, he teaches up at a school in New Jersey, and they're like completely pushing the whole, hey, the sports team's depending on you, you know, I mean, they're really pushing out aggressive. And I'm
The
like,
college scholarship depends on you showing up for the sports team.
I mean, we can do that, you know, so.
Can you make an announcement like at a football game and try to hit those band parents and football parents and cheerleading parents that maybe would normally get?
Right. Yeah, the public service announcement kind of thing.
Yeah. Or even maybe get, like, we were talking about, if there was some doctor that someone knew that
Right.
could.
Feel the table or hang
Yeah.
out, you know, because there's just a.
Yeah. Anything else?
I'd love to just introduce myself. My name is Stacy Mosby, and I work with Young Life and Susan Farmer, the teacher sponsor. And I just want to congratulate you guys for starting so strong. It's been so awesome to see students come back and be excited about being back, and other Young Life leaders are very excited to be back. And so it's been really fun. And we just want to be here to support and serve you guys. So if there are any ways you think that we can be back,
Tell the kids to get vaccinated.
yeah.
Number 1.
Jennifer, nothing from you?
Well, I looked up the rules in the state of Georgia, a parent would have to consent to a child under 18 getting the vaccine. So there probably are a few number of kids here who are over 18, but not many. So unfortunately, you know, yeah, we gotta get, you know, to your point, you need to get the parents on board as well.
There's a student today that was saying her quarantine, and she is 18, so that's interesting. Yeah, but she hasn't had the shots. So I do think maybe like a little video, maybe of doctors of color, maybe, you know, just a little, hey, this is why it's important. I mean, you know, I got the shot, you can, you know, I do think that would be important. So we could do something like that, even a little video, things like that.
Both language.
Yeah, and then, yes, yes.
And I know within the Black community, a lot of people are reticent because of the simple experiment. However, descendants of the airmen have come out recently and said we support the vaccine, but maybe people don't know that. They know why they don't want to have it because of what happened in the past, but they might not be aware that, okay, these descendants are saying, no, we are for this vaccine. So just, you know, that awareness is being very culturally specific, I think is important.
Even sending people at home.
Like I know.
So just people get, just people get them.
Yeah. Sure doesn't mean.
Yeah, it's a Thursday packet.
Thursday
packet.
And you had your little phone, yeah, check off.
Yeah, around that whole, yeah, we will be much more aggressive.
Getting used to that, opening up a book bag, like after this is going to check. That's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be.
Feels like we don't have.
That's a worry.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, closing this first meeting, okay, and we will be all again in September, not before. So thanks for coming, everybody, and thanks for people that are joining the scene.
Let me know if anybody wants to say I'm not secretary duties.
There's campaign, you need to start.
Grateful to serve and ready to build
I'm
some
ready to
leadership to serve everyone else. Do we have second student representatives?
Yes, and so that's.
I mean, I can check with, I mean, I think it'd be awesome. But